year, obviously so much has gone wrong. I mean, literally right down to losing Jonathan the Husky for a time for injury. I just wonder, when you think about like how you set expectations here and the way in which you communicate that to your team, how it's changed, if it's changed.
Yeah, I think the past, we've had to deal in the past with a particular player being lost for either the season or an extended period of time, at a time where we had so much depth that it was recoverable until the end of March. And then it wasn't. You got to a certain point where all of a sudden, you needed that kid or those two. But never to this extent and this often, and especially coming off of COVID, so the uncertainty and the goals that we have for ourselves. If you'd have been here in June during summer school and you see our workouts, and then later, before Caroline had her surgery, actually, and you see those workouts, and you look out there and you see Paige and Nika and AZ and Caroline and Aubrey and Dorka and Aaliyah and it just, and then you throw Lou into the mix and it just looked like it was going to be so much fun, and there wasn't anything that we could imagine that we wanted to do that we couldn't do. And then little by little, it started to disappear, and then you would get something back, and then you lose something. Then you get something back, and then you lose something. And it's just a constant, punch in the gut, never a final one. Like with Paige, it was final. Okay, done. With Ice, it was final. That's it, done. But with these other guys, it's touch and go, maybe, when, how long. And it's so frustrating for the players, for us as coaches, our team, but mostly for the kids that are affected. And through it all, though, going back all those other years, it's always been, if we have 5 guys, we'll figure it out. And we may not win, we may come up short. In the Maryland game at Maryland is a perfect example of that. I mean, we went down there in probably the worst physical situation you can be in. And we're down 5 with, 3 or 4 minutes to go. And somehow we found a way to hang in there. And if we hadn't turned the ball over so many times, we may have given ourselves a chance to win. So the message now, and the players have really bought in, the message is pretty simple. Now it's come to practice. Let's find out who's here that day. And that's our team. And let's get ready for our next game. And then let's show up on game day. And let's see if it's the same guys that were at practice. And let's get ready to play, and let's go win this game. And after that game's over, we go and we start all over again. So it's believe me, it's not ideal. No one wants to be going through this. But it's quite remarkable the way these kids have responded and how resilient they've been through all this. You think about, we we lost 3 starters to the WNBA, right? And then we lose 3 more starters, when Paige, AZ, and Caroline go down. And you just say, how can you recover from all that? And it's not like you can go and, pick up 5 free agents, bring people off the taxi squad, go down to the G League and get a couple people. So, and then you add on all the minutes that they have to play. And practice becomes not really practice. It becomes all dress rehearsals almost. And then you go in the game and you see these bizarre things happening and people go, I've never seen a Connecticut team do that. So, yeah, well, come to our practice. You'll see things you'll never seen before in your life. Like us being okay with them, practicing 45 minutes or, so it's a different world that we're living in, obviously, but they've been so strong and so positive and they've earned our trust. They know we trust them, and because we've given them that responsibility, they feel empowered and they're responding. I mean, we could go down to Tennessee and get blown out. I mean, how the hell do I know? And and to add to that, the schedule doesn't help. Except for when DePaul game got canceled and rescheduled for the other night. We don't have 2 consecutive home games. So we don't have a chance to come home and recover. We're home one day, practice, get on a plane, go someplace. And now we're at Tennessee. We just got done with DePaul. Now we're at Tennessee. We come back. We got Villanova, who's probably as good as the best team in the league besides us at this point. And then I don't even know who the hell we have after that. Anybody know?
Providence
at Providence. Then we got South Carolina, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then after them, who's that? Marquette? At Marquette?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm treating it as an NBA coach.
Right.
I look up who we playing, who we got available. All right, let's go. Let's do our thing. We lose. Where are we eating? And how good's the wine going to be depending on how we play?
Thank you, Geno. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Dom.
Morning, Geno.
Hey.
Tennessee obviously is kind of the first of them, but over the years, the 20 odd years, you've had different rivals kind of come and go, right? I mean, Rutgers challenged you for a while. Notre Dame, supposedly had your number for a small period of time there. And, obviously South Carolina, now Stanford. How do you feel about this rivalry? I know before a lot of your players were born, it was the big thing, but to you, is this still the best one? And how do you present games like this to your team? Or do you present them as big rivalries, as emotional games that they have to get up to try to win?
The other day, I just gave them a background. This is the history of the rivalry. This is how it started. This is what it meant. This is what it evolved into. And it was probably the first and only classic women's basketball rivalry on the level of North Carolina and Duke. I don't know that there's another one that book that came out of Greatest Rivalries, Steelers, Cowboys, and Yankees, Red Sox, and, Auburn, Alabama, and, and right there, UConn, Tennessee, women's basketball. I mean, to be put in those, in that context with those other rivalries makes it really, it became something really special. But these kids don't know anything about that. there were so many years we didn't play them while these kids were growing up. So, to them, they don't understand it. And as time passes, maybe it's not what it used to be. Too much has changed. Pat's not coaching there. It's not number one versus number two in the country like it always used to be. It's we're not playing them twice like we used to for the longest time, and then 3 times because we play them in the NCAA tournament. I don't think our fans think they're the worst fans in the world anymore. And I don't think their fans think we're the worst fans in the world anymore. I think it's more, it's healthy because it still means something, but I don't know exactly what that is, to your point, and it was like they were in our league a few years ago.
Right. Yeah.
Right. It's like a league game. So they took on the same significance as we got Rutgers twice, and then we got them once in the Big East tournament. We got Notre Dame twice, and then we got them again in the tournament, and then in the NCAA tournament, we got them 4 times.
Yeah.
Louisville, on and on. And I'm proud of the fact that we're still standing. Through all this and all this time and all these changes, we're still hanging around here in the top 4 or 5, and still going to be a big game. Everybody thinks it's a big game. But there's going to have to be a rejuvenation for their players and our players to kind of get caught up in it.
Yeah. And the presence of game day certainly indicates that there's still some magic in these two tiers, some appeal in these two teams getting together.
Yeah. It's with South Carolina having the success that they've had the last couple of years, all these things, create excitement in women's basketball that really needs to be there. So, game day going down there and they make a big deal about it, and it's whoever wins that game has a chance to win the national championship, and whoever loses, you don't have enough, blah, blah, blah. That's the way it always goes. And, we came along in the first 3 times we ever played Tennessee, we beat them. That was unheard of. People around the country go, this is not possible. Nobody's ever beaten them twice in a row, much less 3 times in the span of 10 months. And then things started to even out a little bit. And that was the same thing with South Carolina. Mm-hmm. Play South Carolina. Hey, they got this guy, they got that guy. And the first, 6 or 7 times, every game was a blowout. And now all of a sudden, it's a whole different thing with them. And it was like that with Rutgers. But we're still here. And we haven't gone away. And a lot of those other programs have kind of had to take a step back for whatever reason. And we're still here. So that means something. That means something. Thank you.
Roger?
Kelly said yesterday that she thinks it's a great game for both fan bases and she wants to see it continue. I was just wondering, first of all, why you did resume it personally, because as you said, you guys are still around and Tennessee really needed this game to kind of reinvent itself. Why are you still involved in it? Why'd you resume it? And do you want it to continue?
I think the circumstances were brought to us it was an ESPN production, so to speak. And I think Carol Stiff, who was there at the time, wanted to raise some money for the Pat Summit Foundation and bring a little more awareness to the fight, with Alzheimer's. And we were going to donate money, and Kelly was all for it. And we had been away for so long that whatever animosity was there, it just wasn't there anymore. And so that was one reason. The other is, surprisingly, or not surprisingly, you would think that people would be so anxious to play us on a regular basis that there would never be any problems getting games like that. And that wasn't the case. And now that we're going to 18 games in the league in the Big East instead of 20 next year, that's 2 more games we can add. So, we're going to be looking for 2 more great games. You look at our schedule. I think this might be the highest attendance we've had. This is the highest ratings that we've had since SNY started doing our games. And there's a reason for that. It's the teams that we're playing. And as long as the game is good and people treat each other well, and can't control the fans. I mean, the fans are the fans. I mean, we got some fans you can't believe what comes out of their mouth, and they've got some fans you can't believe what comes out of their mouth, and you just got to take that as that's just part of the deal. But as long as it's healthy, and it doesn't become, something like it started to become last time. There's a lot of value in playing the game. There's a new hotel that we stay at. We don't have to stay at that place all the way out there. It's right downtown, almost right on campus. It's a great bar. Clancy's right across the street. Danny, the owner, is a great guy. You know me, I'm always looking for other reasons to enjoy the hospitality of the community.
Thanks, Gene.
Lila.
Hey, Geno, hope you're doing well. Just what are your thoughts on having the, special college game day show before a Tennessee matchup? It's only, the 4th one they've done for the women's game. And, is that something you want to be a more regular occurrence?
Well, I noticed that not just, ESPN college game day, but there's been a lot more front page stories, a lot more attention given to college women's basketball, WNBA women's basketball, obviously. And these things are proof that we're doing mostly the right things. I think these are all positive things for women's basketball. I think the very first women's college game day was here at Campbell Pavilion. We played Notre Dame. It was crazy. I think it was Skylar Diggins' freshman year. And it was like a circus. The students were here, overnight camping out, just so, they could yell at Digger. There's just a lot of great things that they bring to to the table. So, ESPN has a huge impact on what happens to women's basketball because they do the tournament. So they can get to decide during the course of the season, how do we want to promote women's basketball? And some years, quite frankly, they've done a shitty job. And I think it's starting to change. I really do. Sometimes what we're doing is not great. I mean, I think it's a huge, huge advantage for South Carolina to be playing in Greenville in the regionals. No one should be allowed to play that close to home, ever. Oh, I can't wait to read those stories. And, we're going to these 2 super regionals, right? 16 teams at 2 sites. I have my radio show. I told the people that were at the radio show, I said, look, I know you guys are used to buying tickets for Final Four and whatever. I said, but if I were you, I'd try to get to see us play in the NCAA tournament as quickly as possible because you never know how far we're going to go.
Maggie.
Hey, Geno, how are you? When you talked to the players about the rivalry, what was their reaction like? And did any of them surprise you and know a lot more than what you thought they would know? Just because, like you said, they were so young when the rivalry did kind of pause there.
There was no reaction. There was no reaction. As I said, we went there a couple years ago, and it was COVID. I think it was right after. They had a couple people in the stands, but not many. So it didn't really feel. You didn't get to feel like, like D and those guys got when they walk in and there's 24,000. And it's not something that's been talked about all year long, like it usually is when this game used to happen. So there was no reaction. But then again, I'm not surprised because half of my team couldn't point to the state of Tennessee on the map. They all come from God knows where, other countries. They're lucky they found their way to the U.S.
Do you have any other questions for Coach?
Wow.
You talk too much.
Good. That means I have to answer less questions.
Yeah, hang on.
Each question go about 15 minutes. There's less questions I have to answer.
I think we have one more. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Is it Karthik? You can go ahead.
Coach, Karthik Vikatram, I work over in Knoxville. My question for you is, with it being the last game of the Pat Summit week, if you could just, give your comments on the Pat Summit legacy and what it was like for you to go up against her.
I go both ways in that, obviously part of me thinks that if it wasn't for that relationship, if Pat wasn't the coach at Tennessee and I wasn't the coach here at Connecticut, and we didn't have the kind of games and the kind of intensity, playing each other in 4 national championship games, semifinal games, that, neither of us would be where we got to. We wouldn't have gotten to where we got to, and they wouldn't have gotten to where they got to. And we helped each other. And, coaching against Pat and having Pat, in the league, or in the world of women's basketball. It's like, you know, Dean Smith and Mike Krzyzewski and, you know, John Wooden, you know, people that have been at their school for a long time and accomplished a lot and become synonymous with, you know, with winning and excellence and all that. So that's this half of my brain. The other half of my brain is, at some point, you know, you got to be fair to the kids that are playing there now and the coaches that are coaching there now, and understand that, you know, at some point this has got to be about them more than anything else. You know, and because I think sometimes the pressure of having to live up to that legacy of, you know, carrying on that legacy and, you know, in her name and, you know, keeping the flame burning. While all that's really good, at some point, it's got to take a little bit of a backseat to what Kelly's trying to do and the program she's trying to build and what her players are trying to do, and, you know, and how they're going about trying to win a national championship. And the danger there is, you know, every time Tennessee loses a game that people think they shouldn't have lost. Pat wouldn't have lost that game. You know, what's wrong with this program? You know, I mean, you know, meanwhile, you know, 99% of the schools in America would trade places with them in a heartbeat. I admire what we had. I appreciate what we had. I loved every minute of it. The fans loved it. The media loved it. The players loved it. Everybody loved it. Media loved it. TV. Hell, the only reason we started playing twice was because the game was on CBS and ESPN wanted one. When's that ever happen anymore? Hey, play the best team in the country twice. Why? Because we want one on TV. CBS got one. We want one too. Everybody loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. But times have changed. You know, when I leave here, it's time to move on. You know, it's time to move on. And, you know, Kelly needs the space. The players need the space. The program needs the space to grow at their own pace, to write their own story. And, you know, Kelly handles it amazingly well. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do that. You know, and you see it happening everywhere when a legendary coach steps down. You know, and in Pat's case, you know, you pass way too early. So that's my take on that. And we're playing them in football. Anna, don't we play them in football this coming year?
Yes.
Right? I can't believe we got to go to their place. Get them up here to Brenchner Field or Dillon. Just squeeze them all in there and see what happens. Think we could do that?
I'll look into it for you. Yeah, sure.
How many of those 110,000 that are going to be at Nowland Stadium?